Hello, and thank you for attending SAGE Alerts and Workflow video-based training. Please note that this is video-based training, and content is for training purposes only and intended for new and existing SAGE Alerts and Workflow customers.
Hi, my name is Jane Nichols, and today we are going to talk about aggregate queries, specifically those that use the summarize function in query design for the alerts and automation solution. Aggregate queries are different than record level queries and value change queries. Aggregate queries get triggered by a group of records collectively meeting certain criteria. For example, totaling up all of the overdue invoices per vendor and seeing if that total for any vendor exceeds a certain threshold. A second example is to count up the number of open high priority support calls and see if that number of calls exceeds a certain limit. Aggregate queries are designed somewhat similarly to record level queries, so it would be helpful to learn and understand the record level query in the solution before continuing on to aggregate queries. There are 5 aggregate functions to choose from. The first is summarize or sum function, which totals the value of a numeric field. For example, totaling up the number of invoices per production line, or region, or customer, etc., of a particular time frame. The second is the count function, which counts the number of records that meet certain criteria. For example, counting the number of open support tickets or counting the number of late deliveries. The third is the average function, which allows you to derive the numeric average. For example, the average order value last month. The fourth is the minimum function, which finds the minimum values for a field. For example, identifying the least profitable sale placed last week. And the fifth is the maximum function, which finds the maximum values for a field. For example, identifying the maximum sale closed last week. This session will walk through the steps of creating an aggregate query that uses the summarize function. Our example today will be totaling up sales for each customer for last month, showing customer number, customer, total sales dollar amount, and salesperson, and then emailing the results to the VP of sales for those customers who have total sales greater than X dollar amount. So let's go ahead and start designing this aggregate query. Begin by selecting the application you wish to create the aggregate query in. I will be using the ERP application here, so I will click on the arrow in front of it, and then select the Queries option and click on the New Query button at the top. This opens the Query Designer in the bottom half of the screen. In the query description, we'll give the query a name. In this case, we'll use customers last month's sales by customer greater than X dollars. Next, we're going to jump to the Columns tab. Here we will select the tables that we want to retrieve data from. The customer information resides in the OE order header table, so I'm going to go ahead and select that table, and it moves over to the Selected Tables window. And the sales rep information resides in the AR salesman file, which when I select that also moves over to the Selected Tables box. When designing an aggregate query, the first thing you need to do is identify the field that you wish to perform the aggregate function on. In this case, we want to total or summarize the sales for each customer for a particular time period. So we need to find the field that contains the total sales for each order. I am looking for the total dollars field, and I know that resides in the order header table, so I'm going to go up to the Selected Tables, click on the order header table, and then click on the blue right arrow button, which opens up the columns of that table to the right. I am looking for the total dollars field, so I'm going to go ahead and click in that search columns area and begin keying in the name of the field, which is TOT_D, and you can see it brings it up, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus sign in front of that field. It moves it down to the selected columns area. Unlike a record level or a change value query, where the column type is always left as normal, and it is in an aggregate query that you choose one of those 5 aggregate functions. And in this particular case, we want to total the value of all orders for each customer. So we are going to choose the sum or summarize function. And we do that by clicking into the box under column type, clicking on the drop-down arrow, and selecting the summarize option. And because we are now going to be retrieving the total of all sales and not just one order, we are going to make the customized name read sales total. So we're going to key in sales_total. And once you choose the field that you are performing the aggregate function on, whatever column you choose next automatically becomes the group by field. Now I want to group or separate that total by customer number. So I'm going to go to my order header table and select the bill to number that stores the customer number. So back to my columns of selected tables here, I'm going to just backspace and then key in bill_to_, and I'm going to go ahead and select the bill to number, click on the green plus or the plus sign in the green box, and it moves it down to the selected columns area. Next, we will add the bill to name. So I come back up to the columns of selected table area. I'm going to backspace and key in the A for bill to name. Once I find my field, I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus sign in the green box, and it's going to move it down to the selected columns area. And because we want to send an email possibly not only to the VP of sales, possibly the sales reps as well, we're going to need to select the sales reps email, and that is located in the AR salesman file. So we'll click on that table and then click on the blue square with the white arrow to the right. I need to remove my text that I was using to search with, and I'm just going to key in email here to find the salesman email address. Once I find it, click on the plus sign in the green box, and it again moves it down to the selected columns area. Next step is to link the tables together. I'm going to click on the Links tab at the top, and starting off with the primary table, we are going to select the order header table, and then it's automatically going to fill in the other table that we are using, the AR salesman file. And under the column name, we are going to select the salesperson number, and I know the name of that field is salesperson, and it's number right here, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And now it's asking me to link it to the column in the second table, and that is the salesman number field is named HUMRES. Once I select that, then I can leave the default as left outer join and click on the green box with the plus sign in it to add the link down here in the tables linked together area. Now we want to go to the Filters tab to select the orders for last month only. To do this, first we will select the order date field by keying in the name of the field or using the drop-down scroll bar, I should say, on the right side. I know the name of the field is ORD_DT, so once I find that, I double-click and it moves down to the column selected for filtering area. In the is or is not column, I'm going to leave the default as is. And then in the operator column, I'm going to click in the field and click on the drop-down arrow and select the greater than or equal to option. And then in the compare value, I will click on the green box with the 3 dots to select a variable to be used in the calculation. In this case, we are looking for the first day of the last month. So in the variables to use in calculation, I'm going to go ahead and click on the down scroll area, the down scroll arrow, and I am looking for the last month start date. So once we find the option we are looking for, the next important thing to know is the date format of how dates are stored in the database that you are working in. I know that the dates are stored in this ERP application as month/dd/YYYY. So I look for last month start date with the date format that I am looking for, and here I have last month start date with the format I'm looking for. So I go ahead and double click on that, and it moves that variable up into this the filter string. I click OK, and it moves it down into the compare value field. The second filter will be the last day of the last month. So we will select the order date field once again. So up here I clicked and it moved it back down to the column selected for filtering. Again, I'm going to use the is default for is or is not. And in the operator, I am going to go ahead and click in the field, click on the drop down arrow, and this time I'm going to say less than or equal to. In the compare value field, I'm going to go ahead and click again on the green box with the 3 dots, which opens the window for variables to use in calculation. And I'm looking for the last month and date variable. So I'm going to scroll down here and look for the last month and date with the month/dd/YYY format, and double click. It again moves it up here into this filtering string, and I click OK. From here, I can click on the Preview tab and test the results of our query and see that we have a listing of total sales for each customer for last month. But we are not quite done yet. If we take a look at the description of this query, not only do we want total sales for each customer, but we want to know only those customers with total sales for last month greater than some number. That's the total greater than X. Now with an aggregate query, what we are really doing is wanting to perform a test or a filter on the aggregate result itself. And that in this solution is referred to as the sub-filter. So next we'll click on the sub-filter tab. Sub-filters are only used in aggregate queries. I have 4 fields to choose from, but the one we are looking for is the sum of the total sales. So we will create a filter on that. So once I find it, I double click, moves it down to the column selected for filtering area, and we will create a filter on that aggregate value and say that I only want to retrieve those customers whose total sales are greater than $1,000. So we'll change our operator to greater than, and in the compare value field, we will key in $1,000. Once again, I'll click on the Preview tab, and you will see it has less results, and it's only got 1 customer who has total sales greater than $1,000. Now, just like a normal filter, if I wanted to, I could go to the Sub-Filters tab and make this a parameter-driven filter. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that $1,000 and place a question mark in the Compare Value field. And I'm going to put in the optional prompt area here and say total sales is greater than. And if we test this query by clicking on the preview button, it's going to bring up and prompt for a total to be keyed in here. And now let's go ahead and select $5,000 by keying in the number 5,000. I click on the See Preview button, and I have one result here, which is the same result I had for over 1,000 in my instance, but that number and your results could lessen and lessen depending on how high you go in that total sales or whatever number you choose. So at this point, we are done creating this aggregate query. So we will click on the Save button in the right-hand corner. This concludes our discussion on using the summarize function with aggregate queries and query design for the alerts and automation solution. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you for attending Sage Alerts and Workflow video-based training.